The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Humans existed. Humans were coming. The reaction was chaos. In the halls of the Dominion Alliance, Grand Marshal Seung-ho convened his war council. He was a massive being, standing 3 meters tall with armor fused to his skin through genetic modification. His species, the Kreth, had evolved as predators. They understood only strength, humans, he said, his voice like grinding metal. If the legends are true, they could win this war for us. Send an envoy immediately. Offer them anything they want. Meanwhile, in the floating crystal palaces of the Free Sectors Union, Chancellor Yoonji studied ancient texts with growing concern. She was Quilvan like Mina, but where Mina sought knowledge, Yoonji sought power. Her people had been victims of aggression before. She had built the Union to prevent that from ever happening again. If humans join the Dominion, we lose, she told her advisors. Make contact. Promise them autonomy, respect, partnership, whatever it takes to keep them neutral or on our side. Both sides sent their fastest ships to the Sol system. Both arrived within days of each other. Both delivered their offers to Captain Doyen and Ambassador Sora. The meeting took place on Haven Station, with representatives from both the Dominion and Union present. Jiho and his crew attended as observers, watching as the two sides tried to court humanity's favor. Marshal Seung-ho's envoy, a scarred warrior named Commander Wonho, spoke first. Join us and we will share territory, 100 systems for humanity to colonize, resources beyond measure. All we ask is your assistance in ending this war on our terms. Chancellor Yoonji's representative, a diplomatic expert named Ambassador Jion, countered immediately. The Union offers true partnership. You will have equal voice in our council. We will not command you. We will work with you. Help us achieve peace through cooperation, not conquest. Captain Doyen listened to both presentations in silence. When they finished, he stood. We thank you for your offers, he said, but humanity rejects them both. The room erupted in shocked voices. Commander Wonho's hand moved to his weapon. Ambassador Jion's face went pale. We did not break our isolation to take sides in someone else's war, Doyen continued, his voice cutting through the noise. We are here to end the war. All parties will come to negotiations or we will force you to. Wonho laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Force us? You are one species. The Dominion has thousands. Your fleet against ours would be decisive, Doyen interrupted. The war ends in 6 months. Either at a negotiating table or through our intervention. Choose. Both envoys left furious. Within hours, messages reached their respective governments. The response from both sides was the same, amusement mixed with anger. Who did humanity think they were? The galaxy was about to find out. The demonstration came at Kepler Station, a critical supply hub in contested space. A Dominion fleet of 800 warships commanded by Admiral Hyunwoo's counterpart in the Dominion military attacked a Union convoy of 300 vessels. It was meant to be a massacre. The Union convoy was outnumbered and outgunned. Then 17 human ships appeared. They did not emerge from jump space. They did not decloak. They were simply not there one moment and there the next, as if they had always been present but invisible. Each ship was sleek and elegant, more like works of art than weapons of war. The Dominion Admiral opened communications. Unknown vessels, clear the area or be destroyed. The response came from Admiral Hyunwoo himself, humanity's naval commander. His voice was calm. This is the Human Defense Fleet. All ships will power down weapons immediately. This fight is over. The Dominion Admiral did what any warrior would do when given an order by someone with fewer ships. He attacked. 800 warships opened fire simultaneously, enough firepower to crack a planet. The energy weapons and missiles filled space with deadly light. None of it reached the human ships. The attacks simply stopped, absorbed by shields that did not glow or flicker. They just worked effortlessly. What happened next became known across the galaxy simply as the 4-minute war. The human ships moved. Not fast, but with impossible precision. They wove through the Dominion fleet like dancers, never colliding, never hesitating, and as they moved, they fired. But they did not fire weapons meant to kill. Instead, impossibly accurate beams struck each warship exactly where their weapon systems were located. Not the engines, not the life support, just the guns and missile bays. Within seconds, hundreds of ships found themselves defenseless but otherwise intact. Lieutenant Nari, Hyunwoo's tactical officer, coordinated the assault from the human flagship. Her displays showed every enemy ship, every weapon, every critical system. The human AI calculated trajectories faster than thought. When she gave an order, it was executed perfectly. "Target the command ship's weapons array," she said calmly. "Non-lethal force only." The Dominion flagship, a massive dreadnought that had destroyed planets, was disarmed in 3 seconds. Its shields meant nothing. Its armor did not matter. The human weapons simply went exactly where they needed to go, and did exactly what they were designed to do. Within 4 minutes, the entire Dominion fleet floated helplessly in space. Not one ship destroyed, not one life lost, but 800 warships rendered completely harmless. The Union convoy had not fired a single shot. They simply watched in stunned silence. Admiral Hyunwoo opened communications again. "Dominion fleet, you are disarmed but safe. We will not harm you. However, boarding parties are on their way. Do not resist small craft launched from the human ships." They docked with the disabled warships. Marines in powered armor, led by Commander Soman, entered each vessel, but they did not come as conquerors. They came as peacekeepers. Soman stood on the bridge of the Dominion flagship facing the Admiral and his crew. She removed her helmet, showing her face. She looked young, barely out of training, but her eyes held the weight of humanity's entire history. "You have 2 choices," she told them. "Return to your government with a message. The war ends or we end it for you. Or stay here, and we will show you what happens to those who continue fighting." The Dominion Admiral, his pride shattered, made the only choice that made sense. "We will deliver your message." "Good," Soman said. "Your weapons will be returned when you reach your home system. Your ships are fully functional otherwise. Go now. Tell them what you saw here." The Dominion fleet limped away, carrying stories of impossible technology and unbeatable tactics. But the demonstration was not over. Over the next week, similar incidents occurred at 17 different battle sites across the war zone. Every time one side tried to attack the other, human ships appeared. Every time they disabled all combatants without killing anyone. Every time they gave the same message: "Stop fighting or we will make you stop." The galaxy had never seen anything like it. War was supposed to be about destruction, but humanity had found a way to wage peace as efficiently as others waged war. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Both the Dominion and Union sent their highest representatives. For the first time in 300 years, they sat at the same table without trying to kill each other. Jiho attended, watching as the 2 sides that had refused to even speak to each other now had no choice, because standing at the head of the chamber was Captain Doyen, with Ambassador Sora beside him. "We tried asking nicely," Doyen said. "You ignored us. We tried demonstrating our capabilities. You attacked us. Now we are telling you plainly, the killing stops. Today. You will negotiate. You will compromise. You will find peace. And if we refuse?" Marshal Sungho demanded, his pride making him brave despite what he had seen. "Then we will disable every military vessel in your fleets," Doyen replied simply. "We will shut down every weapons facility. We will park our ships in orbit over every capital world, and we will sit there until you are ready to be reasonable. We can wait as long as necessary. We have 10,000 years of patience." Chancellor Yunji, more practical than her counterpart, asked the critical question: "What do you want from us?" "We want you to stop killing each other over resources you could share, territory you could split, and pride you should set aside," Sora answered. "We want you to remember that war is not glory. It is tragedy. We want you to choose to be better." The room fell silent. Finally, Sungho spoke, his voice quiet. "How can we trust each other? After 300 years? "You do not have to trust each other," Doyen said. "Not yet. You just have to trust that we will enforce whatever agreements you make, and believe us when we say we will." For the first time in centuries, real peace talks began. Not because both sides wanted peace, but because humanity gave them no other choice. The forgotten legends had returned not as saviors or conquerors, but as teachers with very big sticks. And the lesson was simple: grow up, or we will treat you like children. The ship moved through the opening in the sphere, guided by invisible forces. Tejo's hands hovered over the controls, but the ship was no longer his to command. Whatever technology controlled this place had taken over completely. "Scanners are going crazy," Yuna reported. Her voice held a mixture of fear and wonder. "I am detecting thousands of satellites, hundreds of stations, defense platforms everywhere. This entire system is one massive fortress. But it was the planet that captured everyone's attention. Earth hung in space before them, a jewel of blue oceans and green continents. White clouds swirled across its surface. Even from orbit, they could see cities that glowed with light, but also vast forests and pristine wilderness. How is this possible? Heejin breathed. A world this developed should be covered in pollution. The ecosystems should be dead. They learned to live with their world instead of against it, Mina said, studying her readings. Look at these energy signatures. Everything runs on clean power. The entire planet is in perfect balance. Their ship was directed to a massive orbital station. As they drew closer, they could see it was shaped like a ring, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. Ships of designs they had never seen were docked along its length. Hundreds of them. That is a military fleet, Jiho said quietly. A large one. The ship docked automatically. As the crew gathered their equipment, the airlock cycled open. On the other side stood 3 humans. The aliens had seen pictures in the ancient texts, but seeing humans in person was different. They stood upright on 2 legs with 2 arms. Their skin came in various shades. Hair grew from their heads in different colors. They wore simple uniforms of dark blue with a symbol on the chest, a circle representing a planet surrounded by stars. The human in the center stepped forward. He was tall with dark hair and sharp eyes. I am Captain Doyen, commander of Earth's Defense Forces. Welcome to Haven Station. To the crew's surprise, he spoke their language perfectly. Beside him stood a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. I am Ambassador Sora. I will be your guide and translator, though as you can hear we have learned your languages. The third human was younger, with close-cropped hair and the bearing of a soldier. He said nothing, but his eyes constantly scanned for threats. Heejin stepped forward, using her diplomatic training. We are honored by your welcome. We have many questions, and we will answer them, Sora said. But first you must be tired from your journey. Please follow us. They were led through the station. Everywhere they looked, humans moved with purpose and efficiency. The technology around them was subtly advanced. Nothing looked flashy or complicated, but everything worked perfectly. The air smelled clean. The lights were comfortable. Even the gravity felt more natural than on any artificial station the crew had visited. They were brought to a conference room with a window that showed Earth rotating slowly below. Food and drink had been prepared, matching the dietary needs of each species. Somehow the humans had known exactly what to provide. You have been watching us, Jiho said. It was not a question. Captain Doyen nodded. For a very long time. We have monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. Small, hidden, undetectable. We have observed your civilizations rise and fall. We watched your current war begin. We have seen everything. Then why did you hide? Mina asked. Why seal yourselves away? Sora gestured to the chairs and everyone sat. To understand that, you must know our history. 10,000 years ago, humans were expanding into the galaxy. We were young, aggressive, and confident. We made allies among smaller species. We defended them against larger empires. We thought we were heroes. But the larger empires saw you as threats, Jiho said, understanding immediately. Yes, Doyen confirmed. A coalition of 5 ancient civilizations decided to eliminate us. They attacked Earth with overwhelming force. Billions died in the first day. Our colonies were burned. Our ships were destroyed. We were facing extinction. The captain's voice remained steady, but the pain in his eyes was clear even across species barriers. So we fought back, he continued, with everything we had. We created weapons that could tear planets apart. We built ships that could destroy fleets. We developed technology that allowed us to strike anywhere instantly. We won that war. We killed trillions. We broke entire civilizations. And when it was over, you were horrified by what you had become. Mina finished softly. Sora nodded. We had become the monsters we thought we were fighting against. Yes, we survived. Yes, we won. But at what cost? We looked at ourselves and did not like what we saw. So we made a choice, Doyen said. We would isolate ourselves. We built the sphere to keep others out and ourselves in. We decided that we would not return to the galaxy until we had changed. Not just our technology, but ourselves. Our society, our philosophy, our very souls. Yuna spoke for the first time since entering the station. 10,000 years. That is a long time to change. It was necessary, Sora said. We had to rebuild everything. Our government, our economy, our culture. We had to learn to live without war, without conflict, without the need to dominate. It took millennia, but we did it. We created a society based on cooperation, understanding, and growth. We healed our planet. We healed ourselves. Tejo, the young pilot, asked the question they were all thinking. Are you ready now? To come back? Doyen and Sora exchanged glances. That is being debated even now, Doyen said. Not everyone agrees that we should reveal ourselves. As if on cue, the door opened. Another human entered, older than the others, with gray in his hair. He wore robes instead of a uniform. His face was stern. This is Speaker Junho, Sora introduced. He leads the Isolationist Council. Junho did not offer pleasantries. You should not have been allowed inside. We are safe here. We are at peace. Involving ourselves in your war will only bring back the darkness we fought so hard to escape. With respect, Jiho said carefully, you are already involved. By choosing to watch and do nothing, you are making a choice. People are dying. Entire species are going extinct. That is tragic, Junho said, his voice hard. But it is not our responsibility to save you from yourselves. We tried that once. It nearly destroyed us. The galaxy is not the same as it was, Mina argued. The threats are different now. You would not be fighting empires trying to destroy you. You would be stopping a war that serves no purpose. Every war serves a purpose, Junho replied. Power, resources, pride. What makes you think your war is different? Captain Doyen raised his hand. Enough. These debates belong in the assembly, not here. Our guests did not come to watch us argue. But Hijin shook her head. Actually, we need to see this. We need to understand if humanity will help us. Sora smiled sadly. Come then. The vote is happening today. All of Earth will decide whether to break our isolation. You can watch democracy in action. They were taken to an observation deck where a massive screen showed the proceedings of Earth's global assembly. Billions of humans were voting on the question. Should humanity reveal itself to the galaxy and intervene in the war? The debate was passionate. Some argued for isolation, saying that the old darkness still lurked within humanity and might return if awakened. Others argued for intervention, saying that the whole point of their transformation was to become a force for good in the galaxy. The vote took hours. The crew watched in silence, understanding that their entire mission rested on this decision. Finally, the results came in. 52% voted to emerge. 48% voted to remain hidden. It was close, but it was enough. Doyen turned to the crew. It seems humanity will be stepping back into the galaxy. Now comes the hard part, deciding how. Jiho felt hope for the first time in years. Whatever you decide, thank you. For even considering helping us. We are not doing this just for you, Doyen said. We are doing it because we remember what it is like to be consumed by war. We remember what it is like to lose hope, and we swore that if we ever had the chance to prevent that suffering in others, we would take it. Ambassador Sora stood. A fleet will be prepared. Diplomats will be assigned. But understand this. Humanity will not take sides in your war. We will not fight for the Dominion or the Union. We will fight for peace itself, and we will enforce it, whether your civilizations are ready or not. The crew looked at each other. They had come seeking help and found something far more powerful. They had found humanity, and humanity was ready to change everything. The war had been going on for 300 years. Nobody could remember how it started anymore. The Dominion Alliance fought against the Free Sectors Union across thousands of star systems. Planets burned. Species died. Resources vanished. Everyone was tired, but nobody knew how to stop. Commander Jiho stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, the neutral station where the Galactic Council met. He was a Vikrani, a species known for their military strength. His blue scales caught the light as he addressed the council members sitting in their floating chairs above him. We are losing, Jiho said. His voice was calm but firm. Not to each other, but to the war itself. In 50 years, there will be nothing left to fight for. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Nobody wanted to admit he was right. I propose something different, Jiho continued. An expedition to find help from the past. Murmurs filled the chamber. The head counselor, a massive creature with 6 arms, leaned forward. Explain. Jiho activated a hologram. Ancient text appeared in the air, written in a language so old that only scholars could read it. These records speak of a species called humans. They existed over 10,000 years ago. The legends say they possess technology beyond anything we know. They could turn the tide of any battle. Then they vanished completely. Laughter echoed through the chamber. One council member, a floating jellyfish-like being, made a dismissive sound. Humans are fairy tales. Stories we tell children. They never existed. I believe they did, said a voice from the back. All eyes turned to Dr. Mina. She was a quilvan, a species that looked almost like Earth's rabbits but stood upright and had 4 arms. She was the galaxy's leading expert on ancient civilizations. She walked forward carrying a datapad. I have been studying pre-war archives for 20 years, Mina said. 3 months ago I found something. Coordinates. Hidden in a database that nobody had opened in millennia. The coordinates point to a region of space we have marked as empty. But the old records call it the Sol system. They mark it with 2 words, quarantine zone. The chamber fell silent. Why would they quarantine an empty system? Jiho asked, though he already knew the answer. Because it is not empty, Mina replied. The debate lasted for hours. Most council members thought it was a waste of time and resources, but desperation makes people willing to try anything. Finally, they agreed to send a small expedition. If Jiho and Mina wanted to chase myths, they could, but they would get only 1 ship and a small crew. 2 weeks later, the exploration vessel departed from Nexus Prime. Besides Jiho and Mina, the crew included 3 others. Teho was the pilot, a young member of the bird-like Kess species. His reflexes were the fastest in the fleet. Yuna was the engineer, a stocky Vikrani woman who could fix anything. Hijin was the diplomat, a graceful member of the telepathic Mindari species. If they found anything, she would make first contact. The journey took 40 days through jump space. They traveled through sectors that had been abandoned during the war, past the ruins of civilizations that had collapsed from the fighting. The loneliness of empty space pressed down on them. Approaching the coordinates, Taiho announced on the 40th day. Everyone gathered on the bridge. The view screen showed only darkness and distant stars. Nothing unusual. Nothing at all. There is nothing here, Hyejin said softly. We came all this way for nothing. But Mina was checking her instruments frantically. No, look at this. The scanners show nothing. But watch what happens when I send out a mapping pulse. She activated the ship's deep scanner. A wave of energy shot out into space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the scanner results came back and everyone gasped. The entire star system was there, but it was wrapped in something. A perfect sphere surrounded everything, starting just past where the outermost planet should be. The sphere was so perfect, so flawless, that their normal scanners simply could not detect it. It was as if someone had built a shell around an entire solar system. What is that made of? Yuna whispered. I have no idea, Mina said. The scanner cannot identify the material. It predates anything in our databases. Jiho stared at the readings. His military mind was already calculating. To build something that large, that perfect, the technology required would be impossible, Taiho finished. By our standards, it would be impossible. They spent 3 weeks studying the sphere, flying along its surface. It was completely smooth. No doors, no windows, no weak points. Whatever was inside had sealed itself away completely. Maybe everyone inside is dead, Hyejin suggested. Maybe this is a tomb. But Mina did not think so. The sphere is still active. I am detecting energy patterns. Faint, but they are there. Something inside is still working. Yuna worked day and night, scanning every inch of the sphere they could reach. On the 20th day, she found something. Here. There is a microscopic flaw in the structure. A gap smaller than an atom, but if I route our communications through the right frequency. She sent a tight beam signal through the tiny gap. It was a simple message, we come in peace. We wish to talk, they waited. Hours passed, then days. Jiho was about to order them to leave when the communication console came to life. Identification required. State your purpose. The voice was mechanical, artificial, but it spoke in a language that their translation systems could understand. More importantly, it spoke at all. Something inside was alive and aware. Jiho stepped forward. I am Commander Jiho of the Vikrani Imperial Fleet, representing the Galactic Council. We are searching for information about a species called humanity. Another long pause. Then, humanity is here. Humanity has always been here. Why do you seek us? Mina moved beside Jiho. The galaxy is destroying itself. We are at war and we are losing. The ancient records say humanity once helped others. We need that help again. The longest pause yet. Minutes stretched into an hour, then 2. The crew began to think the conversation was over, but finally the voice returned. You will be granted entry. However, you must submit to security protocols. Your ship will be guided by our systems. You will not resist. You will not deviate from the assigned path. Do you agree? Jiho looked at his crew. They all nodded. They had come too far to turn back now. We agree, Jiho said. Understood. Welcome to the Sol system. Welcome to Earth, the sphere opened. Not with a door or a gate, but by simply ceasing to exist in one small section. Beyond it, they could see a star. A yellow star. And orbiting around it a blue and green world that looked like paradise. Their journey into legend had just begun. The trial of Admiral Kyungmin took place on Nexus Prime, broadcast to every civilized world in the galaxy. Billions watched as the old warrior was brought before the Galactic Council. But something unexpected happened. Humanity did not prosecute him. Instead, Captain Doyun stood before the assembly and did something remarkable. He put the entire war itself on trial. We are not here to punish one man, Doyun said, his voice carrying to every corner of space. We are here to examine what created him. What kind of society turns soldiers into monsters? What kind of civilization makes war seem like the only option? For 3 days, humanity presented evidence, not about Kyungmin's attack, but about the war itself. The true costs. Billions dead across both sides. Trillions of credits wasted on weapons. Entire species driven to extinction because their worlds happened to be in strategic locations. Generations of children who knew only war. Dr. Mina, who had started this entire journey, testified about the archaeological evidence. She showed ruins of civilizations that had destroyed themselves through endless conflict. The galaxy has seen this pattern repeated hundreds of times, she said. War that starts for real reasons but continues long after anyone remembers why. We are not unique in our violence, but we can be unique in choosing to stop. Ambassador Sora presented economic data. This war has cost both sides everything. Your people starve while you build weapons. Your planets die while you fight over new territory. And for what? Neither side can win. You are too evenly matched. So you are trapped in a cycle that will only end when everything is destroyed. On the 3rd day, Doyun delivered his final statement. He stood in the center of the chamber surrounded by holographic displays showing the devastation across the galaxy. We were like you once, he said. Proud, powerful, certain that our way was the only way. It took us to the brink of extinction and beyond. We destroyed our own homeworld. We killed trillions. We created weapons that could tear apart reality itself. And when we won our war, when we stood victorious over the ruins of everything we had destroyed, we asked ourselves one question. Was it worth it? He paused, letting the silence emphasize his words. The answer was no. Nothing we gained was worth what we lost. Nothing we won made up for what we destroyed. So we made a choice. We chose to change. Not our technology, though that came too. Not our weapons, though we put those aside. We changed ourselves. Our hearts. Our souls. Our very understanding of what it means to be civilized. It took 10,000 years. Generations of work. Centuries of mistakes and learning from them. But we did it. We built a society where war is obsolete. Where problems are solved through cooperation, not conflict. Where strength is measured by what you protect, not what you destroy. He looked directly at where Marshal Sungho and Chancellor Yunji sat. You can do the same. It will not be easy. It will not be quick. But it is possible. We are proof, and we will help you if you let us. The chamber erupted in debate. Some called it idealistic nonsense. Others saw it as manipulation. But many, especially younger representatives who had never known peace, heard it as something different. Hope. The vote came that evening. Not on Kyungmin's fate, but on whether to accept humanity's proposal for lasting peace. The terms were simple but strict. Immediate ceasefire across all fronts. Monitored by human peacekeeping forces. Establishment of the Galactic Reconstruction Initiative, funded by humanity's advanced manufacturing, but administered jointly by all species. A new council structure where disputes are resolved through arbitration and compromise, with humanity serving as neutral mediators. Disarmament treaties that would reduce military forces to defensive levels only, verified by human inspection teams. And most controversially, any species that broke the peace would face human intervention, up to and including occupation of their military facilities. You want to make yourselves the galaxy's police? Sung-ho demanded. We want to make war impossible, Do-yeon replied. If that requires us to be guardians of the peace, then yes, we accept that responsibility. The vote was closer than anyone expected. Many worlds had built their entire economies around the war. Many species had defined their identity through military glory. Change was frightening. But in the end, exhaustion won over pride. The proposal passed with 63% approval. The war was officially over. Kyung-min was sentenced not to death or imprisonment but to service. He would spend the rest of his life helping rebuild worlds that had been destroyed by the conflict. Some called it mercy, others called it justice. Humanity called it teaching by example. The real work began immediately. Commander Ji-ho, who had started this entire journey by proposing the expedition to find humanity, now found himself leading the Dominion's transition to peace. It was harder than fighting had been. Warriors had to become builders. Weapons factories had to be converted to produce goods instead of guns. Entire military fleets had to be retrained for humanitarian missions. But humanity kept its promises. Director In-woo, one of their most skilled negotiators, worked tirelessly alongside Ji-ho to bridge centuries of hatred between the Dominion and Union. When old grievances threatened to derail talks, human mediators stepped in. When economic hardship made peace seem impossible, human technology provided solutions. 1 year after humanity's emergence, Dr. Mina walked through a city on a planet called New Haven. It had been a battlefield just months before, with ruins and craters covering the landscape. Now construction drones filled the sky, rebuilding what had been destroyed. Human engineers worked alongside local workers, teaching them new techniques. Beside her walked Taiho, the pilot who had brought them to Earth in the beginning. He had chosen to stay in human space, learning their ways. I never thought I would see this, he said, watching children of different species playing together in a park that had been a military base. Neither did I, Mina admitted. I was looking for a legend. I found something better. I found proof that change is possible. In orbit above Earth, Captain Do-yeon stood on the bridge of his flagship, preparing for departure. Speaker Junho, once humanity's most vocal isolationist, now served as his second-in-command. The old speaker had finally accepted that humanity's isolation had always been preparation, not an end in itself. Where are we going? Junho asked. The Outer Rim, Do-yeon replied. Reports of conflicts between mining colonies. Nothing major yet, but it could grow into something bigger. So we stop it before it starts. That is the job we chose. Around Earth, the new human peace fleet gathered. Ships that had been designed for defense were now being used for peacekeeping. Marines trained for war now learned crisis intervention and humanitarian aid. Humanity had transformed itself once. Now it would help the galaxy do the same. Ambassador Sora addressed the Galactic Council one final time before the new structure took effect. We are not your saviors, she said. We are not your rulers. We are your partners and, when necessary, your guardians. But the real work of building peace belongs to you. We can enforce the ceasefire. We can provide resources. We can mediate disputes. But we cannot make you care about each other. That has to come from within. How long will you stay? Chancellor Yoonji asked. She had become one of humanity's strongest supporters, understanding that peace served her people better than war ever had. As long as necessary, Sora replied. If that is 10 years or 10,000, we will be here. Marshal Sung-ho, humbled by defeat but not broken, asked one final question. What do you gain from this? What do you want in return? Sora smiled. We gain a galaxy at peace. That is all we ever wanted. The knowledge that our children and yours will live in a universe where war is history, not destiny. That is worth everything. The first meeting of the new Galactic Council ended with something that had not happened in 300 years. Representatives from every faction shaking hands, tentacles or whatever appendages their species used for greeting. It was awkward. It was uncomfortable. But it was real. As the weeks passed, peace became routine. Trade routes reopened. Refugees returned home. The scars of war would take generations to heal completely, but the healing had begun. On Earth, humanity watched and waited. They had emerged from their isolation. They had stepped into the conflict. And they had changed everything. In classrooms across 1,000 worlds, children learned a new history. Not the history of endless war, but the story of how it ended. They learned about the forgotten legends who became real. They learned about the species that chose to master itself before trying to master the galaxy. Years later, when asked what humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was, Dr. Mina gave a simple answer. They taught us that violence is not strength, that compassion is not weakness, that the hardest battle is not against enemies outside, but against the darkness within, and most importantly, they proved that change is possible. Always. The human fleet jumped into the unknown, carrying their message to distant stars. Behind them, a galaxy slowly learned to live in peace. Ahead of them, new challenges waited. But humanity was ready. They had been forgotten legends. They had stepped into the conflict. And they had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth that had been lost in centuries of war. Peace talks had been going on for 3 weeks. Progress was slow, but it was progress. The Dominion and Union were actually talking instead of shooting. Captain Doyen considered it a victory, even if both sides complained constantly. But not everyone wanted peace. Deep in Dominion space, Admiral Kyung-min studied every piece of data about humanity he could find. He was old for his species, with scars covering his body from a lifetime of battle. He had risen through the ranks by being smarter and more ruthless than his enemies. He did not believe in surrender. They are soft, he told his inner circle of loyal officers. They disable ships instead of destroying them. They spare lives. They refuse to kill. This compassion is their weakness. His second-in-command, a young officer named Lieutenant Sunwoo, looked uncertain. Sir, they defeated our fleet in 4 minutes, without losing a single ship. Their technology is far beyond ours. Technology is not everything, Kyung-min replied. I have studied military history for decades. I know humanity's old wars. I know how they think. They hesitate. They feel guilt. They will not fire first, and that hesitation will destroy them. He had been assembling a fleet in secret for months, pulling ships from the furthest edges of Dominion space. Over 3,000 warships, including experimental vessels equipped with new jump drives that could bypass normal detection systems. It was the largest single fleet assembled in a century. His plan was simple: jump directly to Earth, strike at humanity's heart before they could react, kill their leadership, show the galaxy that humans could bleed. We jump in 6 hours, he announced. Prepare the fleet. But Admiral Kyung-min did not know that humanity's surveillance network was far more sophisticated than anyone imagined. Dr. Ji-won, Earth's head of artificial intelligence research, sat in a quiet room beneath Haven Station, monitoring data streams from thousands of hidden sensors across the galaxy. She had been watching Kyung-min's fleet assemble for weeks. She knew his plans before he gave the orders. Every communication, every supply movement, every tactical discussion had been intercepted and analyzed. She immediately contacted Captain Doyen. We have a situation. Sending data now. Doyen reviewed the information and felt a cold anger settle in his chest. After everything humanity had tried, someone still thought violence was the answer. Send a message to all ships. Red alert. The test has arrived. When Kyung-min's fleet emerged from jump space at the edge of the Sol system, they expected surprise. Instead, they found humanity waiting. The Sol barrier was still in place, glowing with barely visible energy. But beyond it, they could see the largest human fleet ever assembled. Over 2,000 ships arranged in perfect formation. And on every communication channel, the same voice. Captain Doyen, Admiral Kyung-min. Turn back. This is your only warning. Kyung-min stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive warship called the Retribution. He smiled. They knew we were coming. It does not matter. We outnumber them. All ships attack formation. Prepare to fire. Sir, Sunwoo said nervously, perhaps we should reconsider. Silence, Kyung-min roared. I did not spend my life building this fleet to turn back because of fear. They will not fire first. They cannot. It is against their nature. By the time they overcome their hesitation, we will have broken through their defenses. All ships, advance! 3,000 warships moved forward. The Sol barrier did not stop them. It simply opened, letting them pass through. That should have been Kyung-min's first warning. The humans were not trying to keep them out. They were letting them in. The moment the entire fleet was inside the barrier, everything changed. The barrier reactivated, but differently. Instead of keeping things out, it now kept things in. And then it pulsed. Energy swept through Kyung-min's fleet like a wave. It did not harm the crews. It did not damage the ships. But every weapon system on every vessel simply stopped working. Guns went dead. Missiles failed to launch. Energy cannons powered down. In one instant, 3,000 warships became 3,000 helpless boxes floating in space. At the same time, the human fleet moved. They did not attack. They simply surrounded the invaders in a perfect sphere, every angle, every possible escape route covered by human ships. The trap was complete. Fleet Admiral Minji commanded the human forces from the orbital fortress citadel. She was older than Doyen, with gray in her hair and the bearing of someone who had seen too much in her long life. She had commanded Earth's defenses for 30 years, hoping she would never have to use them in anger. "All stations report ready," her tactical officer said. "We have complete containment." "Very well," Minji replied. "Captain Doyen, the fleet is yours." Doyen's voice broadcast across every ship in Kyungmin's fleet, not just to the command centers, but to every crew member's personal device. Every screen, every speaker, every communication terminal showed the same thing, a human face speaking calmly. "Attention, Dominion fleet. You have been neutralized. You are not in danger. We will not harm you. But you are going nowhere until you listen." What followed became known as the Siege of Silence. For 72 hours, the trapped fleet sat powerless while Captain Doyen showed them something they had never seen before. Truth. He showed them Earth. Not as a military installation, but as a home. Cities where millions lived without poverty, farms that fed billions without destroying ecosystems, schools where children of all backgrounds learned together, hospitals where everyone received care, regardless of wealth, parks where people rested under open skies. He showed them humanity's history, the wars, the genocides, the environmental destruction. He did not hide the darkness. He showed them everything. And then he showed them how humanity had changed, how they had spent 10,000 years learning to be better. "We are not special," Doyen told them. "We are not perfect. We are just people who made a choice. We chose to stop destroying and start building. We chose cooperation over competition. We chose peace over pride." On the flagship Retribution, Admiral Kyungmin sat alone in his quarters, forced to watch like everyone else. His plan had failed completely. Not through defeat in battle, but through total neutralization. Humanity had not even needed to fight back. But across his fleet, something unexpected was happening. Crews were listening. Junior officers questioned their orders. Common soldiers wondered why they were fighting at all. Doubt, like a virus, spread from ship to ship. Lieutenant Sunwoo was one of the first to act. On the second day, he gathered like-minded officers and seized control of his ship. "Captain Doyen, this is Lieutenant Sunwoo of the destroyer Determination. My crew and I wish to surrender. We no longer support this attack." Within hours, 30 more ships followed. Then 100. Then 500. Crews mutinied, not violently, but simply by refusing to follow Kyungmin's orders anymore. They had seen a better way and they wanted to be part of it. By the third day, over half the fleet had surrendered voluntarily. They were moved to separate areas, given supplies, and told they would be returned home safely once the crisis ended. Kyungmin watched his fleet disintegrate from within. His rage grew with each defection. If he could not win, he would make sure humanity paid a price. In secret, he began programming his flagship's reactor to overload. If he could detonate it, the explosion might take out dozens of human ships. But he did not know that Engineer Yuna, from the original expedition, had volunteered to infiltrate the flagship. She and her team had spent 2 days secretly making their way through the ship's systems, disabling exactly this sort of desperate act. They had learned from humanity's own dark past. Never assume your enemy will not try to take you down with them. When Kyungmin tried to execute his final order, nothing happened. The reactor refused to overload. The self-destruct systems would not activate. Even his pistol, which he drew to shoot the console in frustration, had been disabled. The door to his quarters opened. Commander Soman walked in with Yuna beside her. Both were unarmed, which somehow made them more intimidating. "Admiral Kyungmin," Soman said quietly, "your war is over." He lunged at them, but his old body was no match for Soman's training. She simply stepped aside and let him collapse. When he tried to rise, he found he had no strength. He had not eaten in 3 days, consumed by rage and obsession. "We will take you to the Galactic Council," Soman continued. "You will stand trial. Not for attacking us, but for leading thousands to their potential deaths for nothing more than pride. You should kill me, Kyungmin spat. Any real warrior would. Yuna spoke for the first time. We are not warriors. We are people. And people do not kill when they can teach instead. Admiral Kyungmin was taken into custody. His remaining ships were escorted out of the Sol system, weapons restored but with human monitors on every bridge. The Siege of Silence was over, but its impact was just beginning. Every crew member who had witnessed those 72 hours carried the memory with them. They had seen what civilization could be, and many of them would never be content with what they had before. Captain Doyen sent a final message to all departing ships. What you saw here was not magic. It was not impossible. It was simply choice. Every world, every species, every person can make that same choice. The question is, will you? The test had been passed, but not by humanity. They had simply administered it. The real test was for the galaxy itself.